So the big news of today, this Sunday, December the 18th, is the World Cup. Argentina embarrassed France, thankfully. I'm going to read a very short article about this, and then I'm going to give my take about why France. I'm glad that France lost, given its colonial terrorist history. Argentina defeats France in epic World Cup final following penalty kicks. All eyes were on France's Kylian Mbappe and Argentina's Lionel Messi, two of soccer's best-known stars who have played together for 2 seasons on Paris Saint-Germain Football Club, and both did not disappoint. Mbappe scored 3 goals and Messi 2. Both stars also were successful in penalty kicks. After extra time, the score was 3-3. Argentina won the shootout 4-2. Mbappe, 23, played on Sunday for the French national team, the reigning World Cup champions, which won the tournament in Russia in 2018. Messi, 35, who has played in Europe for most of his long career, took the field for the South American challenger. It's Messi's 5th World Cup. He's considered by many to be the best player currently playing and perhaps the greatest of all time, but he has never won the World Cup. Quote, final day for our two Parisians, Paris Saint-Germain said on Twitter on Sunday. We are proud of you. The French team on Sunday morning said the match will amount to a, quote, face-to-face competition between the four best strikers and top goal scorers in this year's World Cup. Mbappe and Messi have each scored 5 goals so far, while France's Oliver Giroud and Argentina's Julian Alvarez have both scored 4. A win for France on Sunday would place the team in the rarefied category of having won consecutive World Cups, a feat not accomplished since Brazil's back-to-back wins in 1958 and 1962. Really good, interesting factoids in this article. Mbappe was on the winning team 4 years ago. Argentina hasn't taken home the World Cup trophy since 1986, when it toppled West Germany and Mexico. The team reached the finals in Brazil with Messi in 2014, but was beaten by Germany. Messi said in October that the tournament in Qatar would be his last World Cup. So this is Messi's last World Cup. He's 35 years old. He reached the finals in Brazil in 2014, but lost to Germany. Okay. So I'm glad that Argentina beat France for a variety of reasons. One, France has something that Argentina thankfully does not, and that's a colonial terrorist history, especially in the depth that France has it. Obviously, there was massive white immigration into Argentina, which we should not overlook, but that's completely different to France's brutal, barbaric colonial terrorist history. And so I'm glad that Argentina defeated France. One, for that. Two, if you look at France's entire team, the vast majority of them, and I took a look at it, Google French World Cup team, and if you look at the images, it's going to show you a team of the vast majority of them, or a sizable portion, are black / of African descent. And so you ask yourself, I'm looking at them now, a sizable portion, if not at least half, are, black / African, including Mbappe. Mbappe is, and these are first, second, and third generation African immigrants of France. And so if you look at France, very much like a lot of these Western states, like the United States, like the UK, the entirety of the UK, especially Britain, like France, like Germany, etc. A lot of these Western states have absolutely terrible human rights violations concerning minority groups within their borders, including people of black/African descent. And so, and yet here you have black/African peoples of black/African descent playing for these Western terrorist states. And I'm not faulting them. I'm not faulting these immigrants, these first, second, and third generation immigrants, for playing for them. But I do fault these Western terrorist states for their hypocrisy. The hypocrisy of having these absolutely terrible human rights violations concerning minority groups, including black/African peoples within their borders and outside of their borders as well, because colonialism and imperialism is still alive and well in 2022, but also for their human rights abuses today in their own borders. So it shits on black people. These Western states shit on black people and terrorize them. I mentioned domestically and internationally. But yet it exploits their athletic ability. It exploits black people and African people's athletic ability. These Western states do, for notoriety, acclaim, gold, and other awards. There's no way in hell that France would have made it as far as it did without these black/African athletic athletes. There's no way in hell that it would have made it as far as it did. If the French team was all white, there's no way in hell it would have made it as far as it did. The black/African athletes, including Mbappe, their star athlete and star player, made it as far as they did because of these solely, I don't want to say solely, that's going to be dishonest, largely because of these black/African athletic players. And so there's this hypocrisy of it, where we can treat you like shit and, starve you of your rights, but exploit you for your athletic ability to, garner and generate awards, acclaim, notoriety, international notoriety, international acclaim, international awards through the FIFA World Cup. And so I wanted to point that out. I'm glad that France lost. Congrats to Argentina. Congrats, more importantly, to Qatar for hosting the World Cup. The worst team lost, which is France, and I'm glad that they did. And that's something that's worth pointing out that I didn't see many other sources point out, let alone mention their colonial terrorist history. So I'm glad that France lost. Congrats again to Argentina, and congrats, more importantly, to Qatar for hosting the World Cup, despite all of the slander that Western media outlets, including Filthy Germany, did throughout this World Cup. In my opinion, in my view, it was a success. And that's the only thing that matters, my opinion and my view. It was a success, the World Cup was in Qatar. And so, and for those who are, there's going to be people who are upset, and there's going to be people who are in denial about the treatment or the mistreatment and ill treatment of black/African peoples and minorities in general in Western states. I mean, just look at the United States. Black Lives Matter needed to exist. in order to convey this message that black lives have value, and yet the West still does not understand it. It still does not get that it is one of the worst human rights violators of human rights, especially minority rights, racial minority, religious minority, ethnic minorities, etc. And yet here it is pointing fingers at other countries, including Qatar, about its or about Qatar or Iran, about their human rights violations, which I can have a big contention with. Um, and so thankfully, France is out of here. Uh, Again, congrats to Argentina, congrats to Qatar. More importantly, peace.